Hey there, how you doing? This is Chris. I got a text message from one of my clients yesterday reference how to source or specific questions about sourcing images and video for a project that she was working on. And I thought, wow, what a great question. So that being the case, instead of just sending the answer to her, I figured, as I do, let's create a video and let's throw it out there, put it on the blog post and spread it around. That way the goodness can get just a little bit more traction. So today we're going to be talking about sourcing images and video the right way and kind of the wrong way. It's not as much wrong, but you get the idea. Okay, so let's begin. First off, as you can see, I'm in the members area of Chris Carter Local, and I just want to point out that one of the things I've put in the members area is a graphics bundle with 10,000 or so images in it. And it's free for all the folks that are members of the site. So all you have to do is go over there, download it, and have at it. And there's a bunch of images in there. And I'm guaranteed, depending on what your project is, you'll be able to find a use for some of those images somewhere. And of course, there's also this royalty-free music loops as well. So if you want backing music and you don't want to have to pay for it, there it is. There should be something in there that you can use. Now, the average person, when they want to source images, they're going to start off at Google, because everybody starts off at Google. All they'll do is type in whatever thing they're searching for and then pull up some images. So let's just say that I wanted to pull up images of Red Rock Canyon. I want the landscape nice and pretty. So you type in Red Rock Canyon, you get to the results page, and then click on images. Now, the wrong way to do this is to just look through this little collection of pictures and go, I like this one, click it, and then go about your business. Click it, download, and go about your business. The thing that you need to do to make sure that you stay on the right side of copyright law is to start by going over to Hidden Tools, then come over to where it says Usage Rights, and then add one more filter. You see, the first thing that comes up is non-filtered images, which means some of these may have copyrights on them and some of them may not. More often than not, they do. And those copyrights belong to the person who took the image, which means that if you use this, that source, that item, that image, or that video in your project, the person who owns the copyright, if they see it, they can have you take it out of there. And that would be a problem. If you have it posted on your website, they can have you take it down off your website. There's all kinds of things that you don't want to have to be exposed to. And the easiest way to do that is by simply coming through here and filtering. You have a choice of label for reuse with modification, label for reuse, and these are for commercial opportunities. And then you have label for non-commercial reuse and for commercial reuse. Let's say we wanted to click label for non-commercial use. You'll notice that you still have pictures of Red Rock Canyon, but you have different pictures, and you'll notice they're from, say, flickr.com and commons.wikipedia and all that. So the sources of the images change. Now, with a topic like Red Rock Canyon, there's a ton of pictures out there, so it may not be a problem for you. However, if you have a more specific image that you're looking for, a specific topic, this may cause you some difficulty trying to find the correct image that you're looking for. One of the things I wanted to point out to you, aside from simply making sure that's the case, is you may run into something that's called Creative Commons. Now, Creative Commons is an entire set of licensing that's for pictures that you can use. So you'll run into that a lot in a couple places. I'm going to start with Flickr. Now, when you go to Flickr, and Flickr, I believe, is owned by Yahoo, at least they were a few years ago. These tech companies are moving and reshaping themselves a lot, so it's kind of hard to keep track of who owns what. Once you click that and go into Flickr, you'll notice this little section right here that says Some Rights Reserved. When you click that, that'll tell you exactly what you can and cannot do with that particular image. In this case, you'll see that it says Attribution 2.0 Generic Creative Commons by 2.0. So this little phrase right here. And what it says you are free to do is in this little section right here. And then last but not least, right here it says you must give appropriate credit, provide a link to the license, and indicate if any changes were made. So that's what you have to do. That's what this license gives you the ability to do. Now you say to yourself, what does that mean? The good folks at Creative Commons are nice enough to actually try to clarify that just a little bit. So for instance, under their section it says how to give attribution, and I'll have a link to this so you don't have to go find it on your own. It says that this is an example of an ideal attribution of a Creative Commons licensed image. Link to the original image, link to the photographer, link to the license. Those things need to be part of the project where they can be seen. Now, the cool part is if you're not quite sure what that means, and if you come down here on that same page you'll see examples of how you can best do that. So depending on what your project is, these are examples of how you go about using that image, that information, or how you go about displaying that information. One of the other places that you'll bump into where Creative Commons shows up is on YouTube. And on YouTube, you'll see where it says that anything that's in the Creative Commons, has a Creative Commons license on it, you're basically granting the entire YouTube community the right to reuse and edit that video. And by the entire YouTube community, they mean anyone who's got a Gmail account, because if you've got a Gmail account, you've got a YouTube account. When you do a search and then you hit filter, you'll notice that down here, you can click Creative Commons. And what you do by hitting Creative Commons is everything, just like over on Google, where you could filter by usage, you can do the same thing here. Now, every single one of these has a Creative Commons license attached to it. So if it's the Creative Commons, make sure that with the Creative Commons license that you give attribution the way they say to give attribution, and you do it in a way that makes sense for the project that you're working. Now, if all that attribution and stuff is just a little bit tedious and onerous and you don't want to do it, you do have some options, even if you're using free images. And one of the things that I like, and I started with this a while ago, is I started looking for these repositories. So for instance, I like Pexels, is it pexels.com, I like Pixabay, and I like pxhere.com. But my go-to is pexels.com. I spend most of my time there. And just like with Google, you can come through here, you can put in whatever you're searching for, and the stock video and the video footage that you're looking for shows up. And it's really kind of cool, but the part that makes it most useful is that when you hit any one of these and you hit the info button, you'll see that the licensing is free to use with no attribution required. Now, best practice I've recently started following that you may want to follow has to do with protecting yourself against copyright challenges. If you do a lot of these type of projects and you source a lot of images, it's very easy to forget where you got the image from, even if you got it from someplace that you're 100% authorized to do so. The tip is simply add the name of the site to the file name. So for instance, this image right here might be shadow eye 1234. All you do is change the file name and add pexels shadow eye 1234. And that way, years later, if someone says, hey, that's my image, I have a copyright on it, you can just look at the file name and you'll know that one, I got it from Pexels, and two, you'll have the actual file name, which means you can instantly look it up. And that's all you have to do. There are a lot of places that you can go. Pexels is not the only one that's out there. Pixabay exists, and pxhere exists. There's a ton of them. If you go to Google and you type in royalty-free images, you're going to get a combination of the free and the paid stuff. So you just go through and you can be able to tell which one is which by what they're telling you. My go-to is always going to be Pexels as far as the free stuff. Every now and then you're going to run into an issue where when you've gone through every free source you've got, you're still not going to find images and videos that fit exactly what you're looking for. So then you're going to have to spend a buck or two. And just like with the free stuff, there's a ton of different paid sources of royalty-free images. My go-to is 123rf.com. There's one thing that they do that I find really, really cool. And that's once you pay for an image, they hold on to it for you. So if you ever need to use that image again, you can actually go through all the images that you've ever paid for and see whether there's any that you can actually reuse for any future projects. And a lot of times there are, but the fact that you don't have to, source through and keep them saved on your computer where they take up all kinds of space, that really comes in handy. The only caveat that I want to mention when it comes to these paid sources is that there's still some structure on what you can and cannot do with those images. So if you go over here in 123RF, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, and you go into the licensing section, you'll see that there are some restrictions, but the most important one, let's see, general license help. It's one, you don't have exclusive use of it, and when it comes to citing, it says, when do I need to cite 123RF as a reference? And do I have to give credit to the contributor whenever I use the content? The answer is no, unless it's editorial content or it's a video. And if it's a video that's going, and I say a video that's going to be used for film or television broadcast. So we're talking about on TV, not YouTube or anything like that. So that's the time you have to do that. So just something to keep in mind. Definitely something you want to look at, but understand that just because you paid for it doesn't mean it's carte blanche. It's not a huge restriction in the way most people would go about using these things, but as long as you understand that no matter what you do, no matter where you get the images from, no matter where you get your footage from, there is a little bit of structure, and as long as you're familiar with it, you should be fine. So there you have it, your free and paid sources and the things to keep in mind as you try to use both.